We'll have more in an hour.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to the AA. Download the new AA app to request a roadside rescue and track the patrol right to your car.
Outbreaks of rain will develop in southwestern and western coastal areas, but it should hold dry elsewhere. Mostly cloudy tonight with patchy rain and drizzle extending eastwards across the country and temperatures dropping to around 10 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The News Round on Off the Ball.
With Gillette, we don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters.
This is News Talk.
Hello there, you're very welcome along to Monday evening's Off the Ball. Big week for Irish football. This evening, FAI EGM is taking place. They are looking for a 2/3 majority from members to unlock millions and stave off insolvency. Nathan Murphy is on the scene in Abbottstown. We will also talk to Gary Owens, interim CEO of the FAI, on the football show when we presume the result will be well in. Damien Delaney will talk to us about matters on the field. Stephen Kenny took his first training session properly this afternoon. We'll hear from Stephen Kenny and Darren Randolph as well, who was talking to the media this afternoon. Brian O'Driscoll will talk to us about rugby after 8 o'clock. Interpros over the weekend. We have our semi-finals lineups with Leinster taking on Munster on Friday evening and Ulster away to Edinburgh. All on the way. 53106 is the text number. We're at Off the Ball on Twitter. Richie McCormack, good evening.
Hey Joe, how are you?
Very well. Adrian Barry, it's been a while. Hello.
20 days I was told before I came on air. Joseph, good evening. Richie, how are you doing?
One of the lesser known Craig David songs.
20 long days. It's been a famine without you, but we're very happy to have you back. What's been going on in your world in the last 20 days, Adrian? What's been the highlight? The last 20 days. Here's a little litmus test of how you're living your life. Last 20 days, what's been the highlight?
Probably a few days spent on the island of Inishbofin off the coast of Galway.
Oh, well, fair enough then. That's okay. That's a perfectly acceptable answer. Sounds nice.
Absolutely cracking. Sometimes spent in my old Joe as well, which I know you've got your own familiarities with. And a little bit of time in Donegal as well. A bit of a whirlwind tour. But Inishbofin, one word, that's it.
Okay. I've never had the pleasure.
Joe, oof. Do yourself a favour.
I'm heading down.
I'm sometimes reluctant to speak too fondly of it, just on the basis that you don't want to make it too popular. But it is sensational. It's the greatest place on the planet. My short take on it.
Well, no, not to exaggerate or give away the secret, live on radio. I mean, you could have told me privately. Everyone heading for Inishbofin on foot of Adrian Barry's recommendation. So FAI EGM, Adrian, we're excited. 2/3 majority, please, and give us the millions.
Yeah, are we excited? I don't know. I'm a little bit fatigued by the whole thing. I really just wish the FAI and the football family, grassroots, etc., just to get their stuff together and take themselves out of the headlines, do what's right for the football family, Joe, that we've heard about over the last number of years.
Yeah.
And just get back in line, on track, and I mean, securing the money is is there a question that they're? I suppose there has been a question, hasn't there, over the last number of weeks about whether they were going to actually get their house in order to the point that it would secure the money. I was never quite sure why there would be a question over it, but it does seem as if they were prepared to walk a bit of a high wire act on that front. But yeah, like it's not boring because it's so bloody important, but it's fatiguing.
Yeah, it's been very slow and relentless and drip and lots of he said this and no, he's lying, it's actually this way, and no, it's actually this way, and then a third and fourth person comes in and says no, it's this way, and the visionary group have taken over, and no, the visionary group, we're doing exactly the right thing, and corporate governance is not what it should be, and yes, it absolutely is what it should be. If I was to best sum it up at the moment, it would seem as if there is still a huge amount of rancour and disagreement within the organisation. There is still a big contingent unhappy with the Barrett owns Quinn triumvirate, and yet faced with this vote now, there is very little option but to accept the MOU and take the money, because otherwise insolvency looms. So I suspect we'll get the 2/3 majority this evening, but it's not a happy camp.
No. I don't. They all did debate around the MOU and all that stuff. Jesus, I've never heard so much chat about memorandum of understanding. How boring can it get? But I've never quite fully understood or had explained to me the reluctance about the 10-year directorship thing. I just don't understand why one would be fighting tooth and nail to why that would be the hill to die on, so to speak.
Well, I think a bunch of people were staring at the end of their FAI careers in the face with that. In short, that was it. Maybe it was extremely naive of me, but I kind of thought that given everything that got on before, people like clinging on with their nails to the dying embers of their FAI career at the cost of football. And that's what we're talking about here, if we're risking the sums that are involved. Was a thing of the past. But as I said, maybe that was just naivety. Well, there's been a little softening on the 10-year situation now, so it won't be as brutal. I think up to 30 of the original 58 council members were staring a situation where they might be effectively had their careers brought to an end. But there's been a bit of a climb down on that over the weekend, so it won't be until 2022 anyway. Again, it's all very complicated, and that may apply to certain people and not others. It is, very quickly you're into corporate governance territory, and you're like reading what feels like a foreign language. I spent a good chunk of the afternoon on top of that. We'll get into it later on, and Gary Owens is going to join us on the football show when I presume they hope they'll have good news. Nathan Murphy is in Abbottstown, keeping an eye on all this. We'll check in with Nathan at 7:30, because Stephen Kenny was obviously holding a training session today. We should start the news round. There is plenty going on. It is with thanks to Gillette. We don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette, made of what matters. And Richie, of all the times to draw AC Milan, this is not the time.
Not at all. Shamrock Rovers having to put thoughts of their plum European draw behind them this evening. There was a 5:45 start to their Extra.ie FAI Cup second round tie at Tallaght Stadium, where it's currently Rovers 1, Cork City 1. Danny Lafferty gave the hosts the lead 8 minutes before half time, but Cork were level 5 minutes after the break through Garrod Morrissey. Earlier today, as you mentioned, Joe, Rovers drawn at home to Italian giants AC Milan in the second qualifying round of the Europa League. The game will be played behind closed doors at Tallaght Stadium a fortnight from Thursday, so it means that Rovers are going to miss out on a bumper payday in terms of the gate. Meanwhile, Dundalk were drawn away to the Andorran side Inter Descaldes. Tottenham's European season begins in Bulgaria against Lokomotiv Plovdiv. Rangers will play the Gibraltarian outfit Lincoln Red Imps, while Linfield and Coleraine will both be at home against Motherwell and Floriana respectively. It's Motherwell's second encounter with Premiership opposition in the competition after they dispatched of Glentoran in the previous round. Back to tonight's FAI Cup action. Bohemians playing host to First Division leaders Cavan Teely from 7:45. The mood around Dalymount buoyant, as we know, as they're set to receive 1.675 million from the sale of Matt Doherty from Wolves to Tottenham Hotspur. And in the First Division tonight, Longford can close the gap to within 2 points of the leaders Cavan Teely with a victory at home to Wexford.
It's a hell of a deal for Bohemians. Let that be a lesson if you're sending over any player to the UK, to make sure that you have your eyes open with regard to the deal, regardless of how small the initial sum is, because look at Matt Doherty, the boy done good. And then for Shamrock Rovers, Adrian, on the day that Zlatan confirmed he's staying on for another season, that is bittersweet.
It's hard to know, isn't it? Like, do you want I was looking at the other teams just to see what sort of calibre they would have been dealing with, and the Bulgarian side are always thereabouts, Fehervar, when it comes to their domestic championships, and so it makes them a decent proposition, whereas the Lithuanian side far less so. And there is that balance. It's constantly the balance. Do you want the crappy team and a good chance of getting through? What does a payday look for out of this? Like Richie mentioned, obviously they won't be able to cash in on the crowds. Can they get a TV deal that's going to make up for some of that shortfall? Do they stream it and bring in potentially much more money that way? I don't know, but you would hope that they'll be able to commercialise it somehow.
Where they actually miss out on this is the TV rights, because the TV rights outside of Ireland, like Rovers will only have control of that, so they can sell it to Virgin Media, they can sell it to RT, or they can choose to stream it online themselves. But beyond that, that's all up to AC Milan, and that's a kind of a sop to the fact that these teams have to travel, and especially in the era of COVID. So Milan, if they wanted to, can go ahead and sell the rights to this for however much they want. The unfortunate thing is, from Milan's point of view as well, is that from their point of view, there won't be that much demand for this game. But from internally, there certainly will.
Where's the game?
Tallaght.
Well, I don't fully understand they're essentially saying, oh, you're a big team, so you can take all the TV money.
The away team in every tie outside of the country,
right,
they get to
so they'd nearly be better off if they're drawn over there.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah,
that's a bit weird, isn't it?
It's one of these weird European concoctions that they've come up. Like, for instance, just to even wreck your head even more, in terms of European rules. One of the ones they came up with today in the Nations League is that if a game can't be completed because of a COVID-related reason, and they can't decide whose fault it falls upon, then a game will be drawn. Lots will be drawn for the result of the game. So we could find ourselves, if Bulgaria can't travel here, or if there's a reason why the game can't go ahead, say between ourselves and Finland or whatever, we could find ourselves drawing lots to see who either wins 1-0 or loses 1-0 based on randomness. So UEFA are kind of making it up as they go along at the minute.
Surely all you need is a bit more complication about the Nations League.
It's very straightforward.
The GA should take a leaf out of that book, shouldn't they?
They should.
Like, one of the dubs go down, Joe, and instead of just turfing them out, we'll do draw lots live on OTB AM. I'm up for that.
It's a great idea. In a parallel universe, we'd be debating now whether Shamrock Rovers should give up Tallaght Stadium to take the payday at the Aviva, or actually stick it to AC Milan at Tallaght Stadium. As it stands, Zlatan and co will be in an empty stadium, which is a real pity. And what about Matt Doherty then? It's a brilliant move for him. Did we like his welcome to Spurs video?
I haven't seen it.
It was all right.
You haven't seen
okay.
it? Oh,
the deleting of Arsenal tweets, Adrian.
Oh, it was good, yes.
I did see that.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, sorry.
What did you think the welcome to Spurs video was?
Some sort of like one of these little sort of viral nonsense things.
But that's what this was. That's what the deleting Arsenal tweets was.
Explain it to me what happened. I haven't seen it.
Oh, you haven't seen it. Sorry. Okay. So Spurs are, it's Matt Doherty's joined the club. So it's a picture of Matt Doherty in his brand new Spurs jersey, and he's sitting at his laptop, and he's looking a bit sheepish. And then the camera shows what's on the screen, and it's a tweet from Matt Doherty back in 2012, where he's saying something like, I love Arsenal and always will forever and ever and ever. And then there's another tweet where Matt Doherty is, cheering an Arsenal result, or just there's some Arsenal-related love tweet from Matt Doherty 2012. And then modern-day Matt Doherty in his Spurs jersey looks up at the camera and sort of says, "Oh, what are you going to do?" And then he deletes the tweets and then says, "I'm back. I'm with you now." So that was a good idea.
Yeah. I paid very scant attention to the story, Joe. I won't lie to you. I actually thought that this was just something that I hadn't realised that Tottenham had fully embraced the idea that Matt Doherty was an Arsenal fan.
Tottenham have gone full in on banter. You tweeted you tweeted the Mourinho video earlier on this morning from the Amazon documentary, where he's listening to supposed criticism of his appointment and gets up and turns off a telly that hasn't even been on in the first place.
That was a ridiculous video.
Yeah, they're not real pundits talking, are they? That's totally.
Oh God, no.
Totally made up.
I was trying to listen to it and think, do I recognise any of those? And then they almost sound like actors the more you listen to it. But the continuity of the shots, it's like he does the Dumpy thing of slamming the pen down on the page, and then he stands up and the pen is no longer on the page. Anyway, several little bits and pieces. It was a fine piece of Oscar-winning performance from Jose.
So if they're purporting that this thing is like a look behind the scenes and the reality of life at Spurs, and they're throwing out that kind of staged muck, it undercuts the whole thing very badly right from the off, doesn't it?
Oh well, no, the fact that I'm all for. Listen, like it almost makes it more peak Jose Mourinho. Like, this guy is willing to go along with an act to endorse his own people's beliefs, perceptions about him. There couldn't be more Jose Mourinho, I think.
Yeah, that struck me as an interesting moment, where they were probably proposing this to Jose and said, we're going to have two people on the TV talking about whether or not you should get the job. And obviously one of them who's not a fan of you is going to have to say you play crap football. Is that okay? I mean, at that point, Jose might be like, why would that be the criticism of my football? Are you saying I play crap football?
Even the fact that they're like, okay, Jose, what we're going to do is here, we've got two cameras set up in the office. One of them is on you directly, and one of them is kind of over your shoulder watching you scribble down your notes. They're going to give you criticism. What we want you to do is walk from A to B and turn off the telly. And he's gone like a top-level manager who's got stuff to do as a top-level manager, and has taken time out to go, okay, yeah, I'll film this.
The other key point, why doesn't he have a remote control?
He does. It's up on his. If you look at the little, he doesn't use the remote control.
So
the
but
remote
that's what I
control
mean.
is
That's
sat
that's
behind him on
another
Sunday
little snippet of unreality about this thing.
Adrian's
do you know-
gone in on this like it's a Krypton factor challenge, and he has to spot the differences between the two
I
planes.
was pausing it to see if I could make out any of the. Was he like scribbling out a team sheet like we're all doing for Ireland at the minute? I couldn't actually make out any of the scribblings. But do you know, I'm going to be extremely generous to Jose Mourinho here. Not that he pays very much attention to what I have to say, one way or the other. It is possible that the actual occurrence hasn't been fabricated. That he was with the documentary makers and said, "Oh, you won't believe it. I was watching the TV the other night. You one guy saying I didn't know how to manage a football team. Another guy saying I was the greatest manager since sliced pan. And Jose, what did you say? F off. Tell you what, let's recreate that. That is a possibility. So they're being true to the narrative while also very, very badly restaging it.
A very bad restaging. So Richie, James McCarthy looked okay today in training.
He did.
We think.
Yeah, well, he took part in training today, so that's, from a James McCarthy point of view, that's something of a first. As the squad got back to work under Stephen Kenny today, they're away to Bulgaria on Thursday in the UEFA Nations League. St. Pat's trio, Shane Griffin, Lee Desmond and Conor Kearns joined today's session, just to make up the numbers though. But goalkeeper Darren Randolph was asked today what formula Kenny laid out for what he wants from his Ireland side.
Putting it simply, probably wants to be a possession-based team. Wants us to show off probably more of our talent and ability, be brave on the ball. So, yeah, probably just be more of a possession-based team.
Well, Adrian, that's basically the message in a nutshell.
Yeah, I watched. You know you see the footage of Ireland training at various times, and there's not that much going on. Geez, I watched, like Richie was talking about the Jose Mourinho video, which I watched a number of times today. I also watched Nathan Murphy had a couple of spools of footage from the training doing the rounds, and I just watched with interest an Ireland team playing football. And then obviously you rush to make a lot of judgment about what was it they were, what were they playing? It was like some sort of intricate passing drills anyway that was going on. And I thought, this bodes well. This bodes really well. This is going to be good. And then there was a separate bit where Stephen Kenny had the players in sort of all around him, and he was giving them a bit of an address, and there was various sort of this sort of thing going on, and a lot of discussion, and I really wanted to hear what was being said, but I felt extremely excited about the whole thing afterwards, Joe.
Excellent. I mean, to be fair, I've never tuned into Ireland training and seen them boot the ball away the way they do in matches. So,
well, it'd be one thing altogether to be training for that, wouldn't it?
It really would. So, I did see the footage as well of, I think what you mentioned, of Kenny addressing the team and very animated, and Keith Andrews on one side and Damien Duff on the other side. Yeah. And I thought, you know what, this is kind of exciting. This is interesting. And game on Thursday, so it's all suddenly very, very real. We'll check in with Nathan. I'm not sure how much training the journalists were allowed to watch, but we'll check in with Nathan in about 10 minutes' time or so. Richie, there is a sense Sam Bennett has a very good chance of winning a stage at some stage across the Tour de France. This was a chance.
It was the second of three, I guess, in these opening three stages of the Tour. He just missed out yet again on a first ever stage victory in what is his maiden Tour de France. He was pipped by Caleb Ewan in a sprint finish into Sisteron for victory on stage 3. Bennett's quick-step teammate Julian Alaphilippe retains the leader's yellow jersey. His second time, as mentioned, in 3 stages that Bennett just missed out on victory, as he did in the first stage into Nice. And he's become, he says, an accidental pace setter.
You know, it's always guys are looking for my wheel and can't go first, so just give the guys another lead out.
And it was so windy on that finishing straight. I guess you knew you needed to leave it late, but then the other day you felt you left it too long.
Yeah, you know, it's just a headwind and it was easy for somebody to come off the wheel, so yeah.
Still feeling good about the legs?
Yeah, they weren't the best, but it's enough.
Sam, anything to do differently if you could pick that apart?
No. I think it's just a matter of luck.
Leinster, Munster on Friday, Rich.
Yeah, James Ryan back in contention for Leinster ahead of that Pro 14 semi-final. The second row had looked set to miss the rest of the provincial season, having dislocated a shoulder earlier this month. Dan Levy could also feature as he finally nears a return from a lengthy knee injury. He's been out for nearly 18 months, but senior coach Stuart Lancaster says Levy's doing all he can to force his way back into a very competitive side.
The challenge for Dan is to make sure he gets back up to speed with the intensity of Leinster's training. which will enable him to put his hand up for selection. So last week he completed his first full week of training, and I thought it was excellent. You could certainly see the old Dan Levy in training, and we've just finished today. He's again been very, very competitive in today's training session. So, other than playing the game, he's done everything he can to force our hand. Whether he makes the step this week or in the next few weeks, that's to be decided. But very, very pleased to have him back training, and he'll definitely figure for us in the near future, that's for sure.
I'm not sure how James Ryan is suddenly back so quickly. I mean, at the start of the month he was ruled out for 12 weeks and now he's potentially back in the mix, so that's a serious boost for them. Lads, in case Latan is listening, tell him the 77A will take him to Tala if he gets lost. That's from the Walkinstown Beckenbauer. What's Richie done to his microphone? Looks like he's hit it a few smacks. Will Power City not sort him out with a new one? Wonders Connor. That's a fair point, Connor. And text in anonymously, the OTB boys are going to have some egg in their face when Stephen Kenny is a disaster. That's you, Adrian Barry, he's talking about. Egg in your face when Kenny is a disaster.
What exactly is a disaster? The Republic of Ireland anymore?
Not sure.
I'm really not sure either. I mean, I don't know. I also
don't think any of us have said this is going to be a guaranteed success story. I mean, far from it. No. It's obviously far from guarantee of success. The excitement is actually that for the first time, if we go down, we're going to go down playing football and committed to playing football. Like Darren Randolph saying, we're going to be a possession-based team. We haven't really had that commitment from a manager ever. Not it's like pre-Jack days.
It's the first time in a generation that we've had a manager whose first thought is, in terms of selection or in terms of approach to a game, is not, we don't have the players and I'm not sure we can do this, but let's do this instead. And we've had that under Trapattoni. We certainly had that under Mick, and others in between as well. This is a chance for us to actually go and play a bit of football, and I think there's the players in that squad that are able to do it.
I heard a proper football man, Richie, on the radio yesterday saying that there's a possibility that we could be very attractive to look at and not very successful, versus at times in the past been not very good to look at and very successful, and then obviously the times where we weren't very good to look at and not at all successful either.
Yeah, that last one was the worst combination, I would say.
So I think of all three possibilities, we haven't. I don't think you got into the discussion, Joe, about the possibility of us being good to look at. I'm actually winning games. I don't think any of us is foolhardy enough.
I didn't want to say that one out loud. Yeah, I mean that was the scariest prospect. There's a Richie. There are quite honestly a load of people giving out here. Are you saying it's Sam Bennett's maiden Tour de France?
I think so.
Someone says this is third or fourth, says DJ in Dublin 15.
Didn't he get the Lantern Rouge at some point? Wasn't he the Lantern Rouge at some point?
Was he?
Maybe 2 years ago. I could be mistaken, but I think he might have been.
Sorry, look, we all make mistakes. I have a book, The Lantern Rouge. I keep meaning to read it. Did you read it as well, Adrian?
I may very well have been sent the same book and have it lying around somewhere.
I keep meaning to read it. I've heard it's great. This is about whoever's last in the tour, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the last but one. So the person in front of you gets picked up by the broom wagon or whatever they call it, and then you're the last man standing. Yeah, like the very premise of it makes you want to open her up.
Yeah, I would say it's a lonely ride back there. The US Open then is underway. This is very much behind closed doors, Richie.
Yeah, not a sinner in the place in Flushing Meadows. Men's top seed Novak Djokovic in action a little bit later, facing the world number 109 Damir Dzumhur. The 2018 women's champion Naomi Osaka, she takes on Japan's Misaki Doi. We do have a few results already through. Already through to round two is women's top seed Karolina Pliskova, who dispatched Ukraine's Angelina Kalinina 6-4, 6-love. 2016 winner Angelique Kerber beat Anna Tomljanovic 6-4, 6-4. Victories two for the 12th seed Marketa Vondrousova and a 30th seed Karim Mladenovic. Dusan Lajovic, the first of the men's seeds to fall, the 18th seed, beaten today in 4 sets by Igor Gerasimov of Belarus. Could be a shock as well in the cards involving the men's 9th seed Daniel Schwartzman. He's been taken to a 5th set by the unseeded Englishman Cameron Norrie. Alexander Zverev also in action today, probably the pick of the first round ties. He is currently 6-5 down, but going with serve in the first set against Kevin Anderson of South Africa.
In broad terms, it would seem that the two big stories are Djokovic and can he win another Grand Slam in the absence of Federer and Nadal, and then maybe the bigger story is Serena Williams looking to get to 24 singles titles, equal Margaret Court's record. Quite a few people have been making the point that there might be something of an asterisk by this, because I think 8 of the top 10, or it's
the women's draw has been decimated.
Is it
Yeah,
8
the
of
women's
top
draw has
10
been
women's
absolutely
is gone?
decimated. I think
Yeah.
it was 7 when I looked last, and I think
maybe
it
it's
is 8.
7.
Yeah.
But then there've been a load of really interesting pieces actually going back through time, and if you were to nitpick through all of Margaret Court's Grand Slam wins, 20, she's the record at 24, like a bunch of them would have asterisks beside them as well. I think in Australia, on a number of occasions in Australia, you basically had nobody travelling. So, if Serena wins, she wins.
You would have had Wimbledon's before, and I remember the likes of Thomas Muller, who was a court specialist, who would hoover up titles in the likes of Monte Carlo and possibly in Paris as well. He just wouldn't go near Wimbledon because he was just like, it's pointless to me. And he wasn't the only court person amongst that group that would do that. So you do have, from time to time, tranches of players who just avoid certain tournaments, the grass court ones being the ones that stick out, I guess, because of the most fair. But yeah, this one is odd. The men's draw, I know there's no Nadal because he pulled out, and no Federer because he's injured, but I doubt he would have been there anyway. That's not been as badly hit, but the women's draw, like Jesus, there's 7 or 8 of the top 10, and if you go further into the top 20, it's been decimated even further. But you still have the likes of Coco Gauff, who needed there, could cause a few upsets along the way. Still only 16, and again in the men's draw, there's some big hitters in there too. I think the biggest thing for Djokovic is probably going to be keeping his foot from his mouth during the course of the next fortnight, because we saw these attempts to form a players' union that didn't involve any women. Probably hasn't gone down too well either down there in New York.
He's had a bad 2020, Djokovic. Hasn't been good.
It's like the stuff he's gotten up to. Like we saw obviously the Adria Tour where his wife and a bunch of other players all contracted coronavirus because they weren't looking into social distancing. But some of the stuff that he backs as well is harebrained stuff. I had a piece on this on the website a while ago. He had a guy on Instagram who's basically like a kind of he's a guy who sells like kind of these potions that are make you feel better, holistic stuff, but just nonsense. That he had a guy on who believes that you can purify water through positive thought, and that your immune system is deeply affected by fear, which going into a pandemic, probably not the best message to be conveying, if we're being honest.
Yeah. I know the chief medical officer in Serbia had to ask him to stop spreading the anti-vax message as well, so it's just been rather messy. So we're going to talk to Luke Jensen, I think, on tomorrow's show about Serena's bid for 24 and how he sees the men's draw as well without Federer and Nadal. That's underway over in New York. Harry Maguire then?
Yeah, he's being given more time off by Manchester United following his arrest and subsequent court case in Greece. Those members of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's squad not on international duty are expected back from pre-season this Wednesday, for pre-season this Wednesday, I should say, but it's understood the United captain might not link up with his teammates until the weekend at the earliest. Donny van de Beek could be an extra addition to that squad. He's been linked with United in the last 48 hours.
By the way, David Myler was very good on Harry Maguire on Saturdays off the ball. If you download the new app, OTB Sports, in your app store, you'll be able to listen back to the chat. David Myler knows Harry Maguire pretty well, would have spent time with him. Harry Maguire would have been out on nights out with David Myler and stayed over in his house and stuff, so he was really good. It's a chat worth catching up on. The golf last night was very dramatic.
Yeah, some big putts and a big win for John Ram, who beat Dustin Johnson on the first hole of a playoff in a dramatic climax to the BMW Championship. The pair finished level on 4 under in Chicago, and Ram is up to second in the latest Golf World Rankings. As a result, Rory McIlroy had to content himself, with a share of 12th, and he is down to 4th in those World Rankings.
And very finally, our boy has done it.
Congratulations to Jack Grealish, who's been called into the England squad for the very first time. He replaces Marcus Rashford and Harry Winks, who both had to withdraw. Grealish, Ireland's former under-21 player of the year. England play Iceland in Reykjavik on Saturday and in the Nations League as well against Denmark at Wembley 3 days later.
There you go, Adrian. It's actually a dream come true, this international call-up this time.
Stop.
Oh dear.
Speaking of topics around Irish football, Joe, that are utterly boring.
Here we go. Jack Grealish, top of the list.
Yeah. Not anything to do with Irish football anymore.
Oof.
Give me Jose Mourinho acting like doing the Robert De Niro on any day of the week, Joe.
Well, indeed. Adrian Barry, 20 days without you. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Joe.
Richie McCormack, once again, as ever, I'll see you tomorrow.
Good luck.
Okay, we're going to check in with Nathan Murphy. Stephen Kenny, first session today. We'll bring you some of what he was saying, and also FAI EGM this evening is about to get underway.
got everything in front of me. So I think I have it. It took me a while to get there.
Okay.
A few of the lads in there earlier on, but I think I've got it. Yeah.